this is real, but this is where I am.
Yeah.
You've got to, you've got to step up.
Yeah.
So, but it's your story, so
Well, I just followed the question.
Good morning and welcome to the Spring Busse Talks. My name is Mary Jones. I'm currently serving as an executive member for the Women in Business Society here at St. Francis. So I get the honor of introducing our guest this morning, Miss Tina Walters. Tina was born in Chicago and is one of 4 children raised by a single mother. As a child, Tina saw her mom struggle to financially care for the family, and this experience set her life's trajectory. At age 5, Tina's mom moved the family to a neighborhood in southeast Fort Wayne. During her K through 12 years, Tina moved 17 times and attended 17 schools in 3 states. 3 of those schools were Elmhurst, Homestead, and Wayne High Schools in Fort Wayne. Tina was frequently teased because she was one of a few students who wore hand-me-down clothes. Tina's strength to persevere came from her faith in God and her empathy to grow stronger for the vulnerable. Tina vowed to rise and selflessly serve others despite not knowing them. Professor Francher-Donald has known Tina for over 10 years and shared that one of Tina's extraordinary powers is her silent generosity. Each day, Tina finds ways to give graciously and thanks God for the opportunities to give. Tina is a prayer warrior and practices her Catholic faith daily. Tina prays for, supports, encourages, and graciously gives to Professor Francher-Donald's family, and she is blessed to call Tina a friend. Tina has received numerous accolades, including the State of Indiana Distinguished Hoosier Award. She was featured on the cover of Fort Wayne magazine to promote health and fitness. She was the City of Fort Wayne Extra Mile Award recipient, displayed at the Tin Cap Stadium, a Fort for Fitness Charity Partner Award recipient, and a guest on Mitch Cruz's Restoration Road TV show, and countless more. In 1998, Tina started J&T Trucking, birthed out of her desire to shape her career and for financial autonomy. In 2008, Tina and her husband Rick launched Fort Wayne's Smallest Winner, an initiative focused on promoting healthy lifestyles for Fort Wayne residents. Please give a warm USF welcome to Tina Walters.
welcome, and thanks for being a Busse Talks guest. You are number 4 since I started hosting Busse Talks a year ago, and I'm honored to have you here, so thank you. As Mary shared, I've known Tina for more than 10 years, and she is such a blessing, and I'm excited for you to hear her story. So, Tina, I'm going to start with an easy question. Maybe it's easy, I don't know.
I like easy.
Okay, good.
And I have
good.
a frog in my throat, so this isn't how I usually talk, but so please excuse my throat today.
Yeah. So, I want you to share your favorite professional football team and why, and also your favorite
Don't
college.
boo on the professional. I'm a huge NFL fan, and I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. And I know you're probably all going to boo, but I know. Feel free. I'm used to it. I had 2 brothers, and my brother played in college, and so as young kids. He's 2 years younger than me, and we loved the Dallas Cowboys. And my aunt and uncle lived in Dallas, and so I've just continued with them. I'm not sure why, because they are absolutely terrible, but I didn't want to be a bandwagon fan. So I continue to support the Cowboys.
Your favorite college team?
Well, I think everybody in this room is going to know my favorite college team.
University of St. Francis, tell me.
They're great too, but they are fantastic. Honestly, they are. But I have to pick Notre Dame. Notre Dame.
Go ahead and applaud.
You can applaud that. I have been a Notre Dame fan since I was a young lady, and I was sad to see the outcome of the final game, but I think they played their hearts out, and I'm going to keep cheering, and I think that coach is a remarkable coach in what he's did with his team.
Yeah, so do we have any OSU fans in the house who will admit it? Say yes.
Look at these
Okay.
hands. All right.
Okay, we have some
Well, y'all
relationship.
did great. You guys deserved the win, and I think we can cheer that they were definitely
Yeah.
the best team.
You know, Tina, I don't really watch a lot of football. You know how busy I am.
I know you are, but I'm
But
a huge football fan.
But I watched that game.
Good.
I did watch the Notre Dame OSU game. I said, I'm going to watch this. So,
My husband and I are huge football fans, play in 3 fantasy football leagues. I am a little bit obsessed with football, you could say, and I'm the only woman that played in these leagues with my husband and all his friends. So they dish it out, and I keep taking it, and I keep coming back, and I'm happy to say I even won my fantasy football league.
so that's going to be one of the metaphors
Yes.
that tells your story today, you being the only woman.
Yeah.
So this is another metaphor. When I met you, you always impress me. You're very organized, ordered, humble. You didn't really consider yourself a long-distance runner. You did. You are. But you decided to run the New York Marathon and completed it successfully. It's really a metaphor for your life. What did that training and that race teach you? And do you see yourself as a long-distance runner now?
Okay, that's a big question.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Let me try to answer some of that. Yes, I kind of got to go back to 2014. My husband and I started Fort Wayne Smallest Winter in 2008, and and I'll touch more on Fort Wayne Smallest Winter down the road, but to answer this question first, I need to kind of go here. 2014, we always required our contestants to run a half marathon. Well, it was great. You know, all those years I would watch them. I'd bring them water and treats and stuff, and I'd drive in my car. And I'd watch them. I'm like, hey, go. And then I got called out in 2014. 3 guys that were part of our program said, and my nickname was Mama T. Mama T, how come you just bring treats and you drive around in your car? Have you ever ran a half marathon? I'm like, ooh, yikes, no, I haven't. And so they challenged me to run our it was Fort for Fitness half marathon that year. And I trained side by side with these guys. And these guys were not even 30 yet. And I would have been, at the time, 48.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this. I can do this. So I did. And then I thought, well, that was in September of 2014. I said, I want to see what I can do on my own. So I signed up for the Indianapolis Monumental in Indianapolis to train for that half marathon. And that was 2014. And I said, I think I'm going to set a goal. I'm going to run that half marathon, and I'm going to do it in 2 hours. And I did it. And I was like really proud of myself, like, wow, this old lady's getting out there, and I'm going to do it. So I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and run a marathon. And everybody thought I was nuts. Like, why would you do that? Like, you're old, and you're just going to take up running? I'm like, well, yeah. So I signed up. They have a lottery system in the New York City Marathon. And everybody said, oh my gosh, I've been trying to do that for years. It'd take you 10 years. I'm like, okay, cool, then I really won't have to do it. I'll say, I signed up, but then I won't have to do it. Oh my goodness, if I didn't get the email and they said, you're accepted. I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is like legit, this is real. So I'm like, I told my husband, I'm like, I don't know what I just did. And everybody knows I signed up, and I'm one person that if I say I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. So I signed up, I got accepted, and then the journey started. And I'll tell you what, it was grueling, especially for, by then I'm 49, and I'm like, I must be nuts. And when I got up in the 17, 18, 19 miles, it was mentally challenging, but I'll tell you what, then when I got to the marathon in New York City, it was a feeling like you can't explain. Just to be part of that, and the fans are electric. And unfortunately, I had a stomach bug that happened like 3 days prior, had all that issue. I couldn't fuel properly, but I said, you know what, I'm doing it. I told my husband I trained way too hard, and I'll tell you what, I finished it, and I did I felt I did very well. I finished in under 5 hours, and I was very thrilled to do that.
That's
I finished
excellent.
at a 4:43, I think it was.
That's excellent.
And for my first marathon, I was proud of that. And so, yes, for a long time, I would say I'm not a runner, but I am a runner. And I think anybody that challenges themselves to something that they think they can't do is a runner. And so now I coach people and they say, oh, I'm not a runner. I only can run a mile. I don't care if you can run a mile, a 5K, a 10K, a half, or a marathon, you're a runner. And what I've also taught people is that it doesn't matter if that mile you get there, because they say, oh, I'm not a runner because I don't run a 7-minute mile or an 8-minute mile. I'm like, it doesn't matter if you ran a 14-minute mile or a 7-minute mile. A mile is a mile. And when you get there, you get there.
That's right. And some of us have different gifts, but if the students want to hold on to that, because that has been a metaphor for Tina throughout her life, challenging herself in the face of adversity when she didn't have maybe the opportunity to do so. So I appreciate Tina because Tina challenges herself so frequently, and she reminds me to do it. So thanks for sharing that, and we'll get back.
Okay.
So throughout our friendship, you've been incredibly private and humble. The community is probably keenly unaware of the invaluable impact you made for everything you've done for the community. One of your greatest tools to help improve the health of the community, you and Rick, is Fort Wayne Smallest Winter, which we'll dig into. But along the way, you've received some very, very, very distinguished accolades. One being the Distinguished Hoosier Award, which is one of the highest honors given by the state of Indiana and discretionally awarded by the governor. I've never received that. And Tina, you know I grind, and I've never received that. So you are very, very, very special. Would you share a little bit about that and some of your other awards? Because people don't know what you've done for the community.
Well, I do want to say the Distinguished Hoosier Award, and I wanted to read it properly, exactly what it says. And the Distinguished Hoosier Award is one of the highest awards given to the Indiana citizens by the governor. It's awarded to those who distinguish themselves by significant contribution to their community and whose qualities and actions endear them in the hearts and minds of the Hoosiers. So my husband and I didn't know that obviously this was happening. This happened during our Fort Wayne Smallest Winter finale, and my husband has put on the Indiana State Bodybuilding Fitness and Figure Championships here for 33 years. My husband's sitting over there he can wave. And
He'll be happy to answer questions at
Yes,
the end if you want to talk about bodybuilding.
He would be great, and he's fantastic. But he put on our Indiana State Bodybuilding show for 33 years, and we always combined the two shows, which was Fort Wayne Smallest Winter, which I can explain in detail later. But into answering Antoinette's question about the Hoosier Award, we were like blown away we're very humble people, and the things we do for our community, I don't think anybody should ever do something for their community and expect something. And obviously we didn't expect that. So we were up there doing our Fort Wayne Smallest Winter presentations, and then we were getting ready to all unload, and Senator Liz Brown, I don't know if everybody knows who Senator Liz Brown is, very strong Catholic woman in our community. She presented the award to Rick and I, to say we were blown away and humbled I don't really have words, and I'm not good. I'm not one to talk about ourselves, and so that's very difficult to talk about, but we surely appreciate it.
I want to thank you as a community member for all of your work. I have seen firsthand the work that you and Rick have done to really serve the community, and our students are here. Our curriculum is built around virtue, service, and joy, and to receive an award like that is incredible. And as a professor, I want for my students and all students at the University of St. Francis to find that area in which they can serve other people.
Absolutely.
So thanks for sharing that. Thank you. Tina has a host of awards, and she can share some more with you. So we're going to move on to your businesses because I think this is critical for our students to understand. I can't see that well, but a show of hands, how many of you think you want to be a business leader, an entrepreneur, business owner? Okay, awesome. Most of the students in here are business majors. Thanks. You started J&T Trucking and Fort Wayne Smallest Winner. So would you first share about J&T Trucking, why you started, it's for-profit, and then also Fort Wayne Smallest Winner. So if you tell a little bit about both and.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, buckle down. Started J&T Trucking in 1996, and the reason why, I worked for a very large company here in town. It was a Fortune 500 company, and in the 90s, early 90s, it was very male-dominated industry. It was more of a scrap recycling type deal. And I was a railroad inspector. I worked out in a very dirty climate. I ran hydraulic and cable cranes. And I was the first woman to have 130 men under me, which in the 90s, I know this is hard to believe today, but in the 90s, it really wasn't accepted for a woman to be out there, let alone was I really respected. And back then, there was a lot of sexual harassment that could go on that was kind of pushed aside, and I had to really endure a lot of that. And after almost 10 years of that and some things that happened, I got tired of seeing all the work I would do, my boss would take credit for. He would get, probably 5 times the bonus that I would receive. And that was hard to go to meetings, and as a woman, you had to kind of sit silently and let that behavior go on. And I told my husband that was enough, and after a sexual harassment incident with my boss, made the decision to end my career there, which was really difficult because I worked really hard to get into the position that I was in there, and I was doing very well for myself as a woman especially, and I knew that they weren't going to do anything about what was happening with my boss, so I reluctantly ended the career there. I had a couple jobs in between, nothing that I loved, nothing I was passionate about. My husband and I discussed potentially could I get a partner and start a trucking company. And it's called J&T. My partner is Joyce. And we decided, I think we can make this work. So we bought our first truck. And that was really scary, and I'm going to talk about that down here later in one of the other questions that Antoinette has for me. But we started this trucking company, and if you guys are business majors, you would know that it takes 5 years generally for a company to be successful. And especially in that time, would a woman-owned company be successful in a construction male-dominated area? We had no idea. And as the years went by, and I'll talk more in detail down here with the other questions, it became very successful. And we started with one truck, and then we paid that off, and we moved on. And again, I'll talk more about that. But that's kind of how J&T started. And then if you have any questions, otherwise I can go to Fort Wayne Smallest Winner.
Fort Wayne Smallest Winners, but before you move on to Fort Wayne Smallest Winners, in your bio a little bit, you decided to become a business owner because you were in a very difficult situation. Do you mind, because your life is really a lot of metaphors, I know that you are very proud of your daughter, Cassandra. I'm proud of her too. She has a really, really important job at Target. We'll just say that she's really high up. You and Rick have done an amazing job.
Yeah, she's VP at Target. And
yeah, so would you, to help give a little bit of foundation, tell a little bit of story about your childhood and then becoming a young mom, because you birthed that business because you're like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I want for students to be able to see their potential and their opportunity, because all of us are going to face challenges. It's going to be really, really hard, and we can stay stuck or we can create opportunities because there are opportunities around us?
Yeah, there's several different turns my life could have taken. I did not have a very good childhood. As presented at the beginning of the talk about moving and going to 17 different schools, 3 different high schools. My mom was a single mom most of the time. She was married 5 different times. We moved a lot. I had a lot of stepfathers.
That's an understatement. 17 schools. I went to a lot, and I did not move to 17, but sorry.
Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, it was a lot to have to go to new schools and not be accepted, and the girls were not very nice to me. I think because they'd already established their friendships and so on and so forth. So most of the time, my mom was very poor, so we were on food stamps and state assistance, and I got free lunches. Well, I would be made fun of when I would go to get my free lunch because it's not the same world today. Now you have a card when you go into, from what I understand, you go into high school. Nobody knows if you're paying with your credit card or you're getting free assistance. Me, we had to sign this form. You had to get in a special line. It was like, oh my gosh, the poor kids are over here, and if you have money, you're over here, which was, to me, I always thought to myself, why do they do this? I didn't ask to be poor, and I didn't ask for my mother to have the life that I'm having, but I'm not gonna say poor me. I always said to myself, I'm gonna rise above. I don't know what God has in store for me, but I know it's a bigger plan, and I am gonna get out of this hole that I'm in, and I'm gonna become something. I'm gonna do something. And so on my 3rd high school, which would have been Wayne High School, I ended up and became president of what was called Cooperative Office Education. And with doing so, being the president, I was allowed to pick the #1 job in Fort Wayne at the time, and it was called Jim Kelly Buick. And yes, that's Tom Kelly's father. And I worked at the dealership on Calhoun Street, and I was a switchboard operator. Now, and I also...
I'm not sure if they know what that is.
A switchboard operator. Okay, let me...
They do not
Okay,
know what an
switchboard
answering
operator is where you
machine is.
answer the phone with a real telephone. So I know we have cell phones and things like that, but it was a full console, and you had little buttons you pushed, and you would transfer to the service department, to Jim Kelly, whoever they asked for, used car department, whatever, finance. And so that was like a really fun job, and I thought, wow, this is cool, I'm meeting all kinds of people. And so what happened then, my senior year, right before my senior year, my stepfather did not care for me, and I had went away to a girlfriend's, came home, my mother had changed the locks, and my stepdad had put all my stuff on the driveway. And I was 17 years old, and I was like, what? And I'm knocking on the door, and I'm like, where am I supposed to go? And they both said, you're gonna figure it out. So I called my best friend and her mother. I had to go to a payphone, and I'm sure people know, you've seen it in movies, a payphone, because there was no cell phones. I drove myself to the gas station. They came and picked me up and all my stuff, and I moved in with this family. And I went to Wayne High School. And I knew I couldn't live with them forever. That was way too much. Although they never said I couldn't live there, I didn't feel like, I felt like I was imposing on them. So I found a girlfriend that wasn't having good home life either. We ended up and got an apartment at Scent Liver, which is behind the Salvation Army by Glenbrook Mall. So I lived there, and I drove every day to Wayne High School, which if everybody knows where Wayne High School is, that was a long drive every morning because that's where I lived. And I would go to school till 11 a.m., and then I would go to Jim Kelly Buick, and I would work till 8 p.m., and then do my homework, so on and so forth, through that was my senior year.
So it's possible.
It is possible.
It
and
is
it
possible.
Was it easy? Absolutely not. I lived check to check. I had a couple people at Jim Kelly's that felt sorry for me, and I didn't want to be felt sorry for, but the Oyster Bar was across the street, and they would bring me sandwiches for lunch. Some people would get gas for me, which was really kind, because they knew I was really working hard to do the best I could do. And then eventually, I had my daughter.
You met Cassandra's dad there?
Yes,
Okay.
Cassandra's father worked at Jim Kelly Buick, and we got married. And I was 19 years old, and I got married. And right, wrong, or indifferent, we had this beautiful daughter, and we're able to. I think we were married 4 years, and we got divorced when she was 5. And it ended up, we were able to co-parent very well together. And thankfully, years later, I met my husband, Rick, who this year we will be married 30 years. So
Give him a round of applause.
very proud of that. And he's been instrumental in shaping my life and helping with raising our daughter. So, I mean, there was a lot of bumps along the road.
Right. Yeah, because life's not linear. It's
No.
very, very jagged.
No. Yeah.
And I know that our students have a heavy course load. We have athletes. Most of the students in the School of Business are athletes, but life is possible.
Well, sure, because I also should add, after I had my daughter, I wanted to go to college. I mean, because I got married at 19. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to go to college. My dream was that I was going to go to IU. That didn't happen, and so I just signed up at IPFW, which is obviously not IPFW anymore, and I took 5 classes each time, and now mind you, there was no computer. There was the DOS system, which I'm not even going to explain that.
Yeah,
DOS system's really, but
I'm not sure. Raise your hand if any student knows what DOS is.
Probably.
Raise your hand.
probably not. But
None. We'll explain it later.
And you actually had to go to the library.
Yeah, you actually had to leave
Cite
your room.
Yes.
And cite your sources
Correct.
by going to a card catalog.
Yeah, the card catalog. And so, mind you, I have a 2-year-old at home who's very demanding and demanding of my time, not demanding.
A full-time job.
Yeah, and so it was very, very difficult. And so I did that, and then I got divorced, and I couldn't continue on with college. I had to work, and that's where I got the job that I worked and worked my way up to eventually have 130 people working under me, and I was assistant to the plant manager.
Wow.
So it was
That's
a rocky
impressive.
road.
That's impressive. And your story is really a story that I hope that our students see it's possible, because I know sometimes it can be very challenging. We're in week 6, and sometimes they want to throw their hands up in the air
Sure.
because life brings us a lot of challenges, but life completing what we start is possible.
Absolutely.
So thanks for sharing that. So you started J&T Trucking and have been incredibly successful. Fast forward to 2008. Was it 2008?
Yes, 2008, where we started.
When you and Rick had this ingenious idea, because Rick owned
I
a
would-
gym for
Right.
bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And share your story.
Okay, this is more of my husband, Rick Walters. He owned one of the very first gyms here in Fort Wayne, and it was in the 1985, and it was called Total Fitness, and it's actually kind of where the Cebolas is, Southwest. That's where it was. And that gym was premier back in the day, and he owned that for 10 years. And then the big dogs started coming in, Powerhouse, Gold's Gym, and his father and him talked, and he knew he wouldn't be able to sustain that. He couldn't go against Powerhouse and Gold's Gym, and unfortunately, that was right before we got married. He knew he had to close it. So his passion was always, that's his degree, exercise physiology. He graduated from University of South Florida, and that was always his passion. He always missed that. His father owned a construction company here in town, and his father asked him to come work with him. Not his passion. Construction, I would have been better to go work for his father, to be honest. But he knew, and it ended up, it was a God thing, because he went to work for his father, And then his father, that would have been 94, and then his father passed away in 1998. And so we really believe that God brought it all full circle because he got that very special time with his father. So with that said, he was always missing health and wellness, and although he still had the bodybuilding show that he promoted every year, and that was at the Arts United Center every year during the Three Rivers Festival. And so long story short, does anybody remember The Biggest Loser on NBC?
Are you guys old enough? Say yes.
Probably not.
Yeah?
Okay, raise your hand so I
Raise
kind of
your
know.
hand.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Okay, so we're watching it one night, and I'm like, just doing our normal thing, and I always loved that show, and he'd always be like, I'd do this if I did that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, all right, and I just, whatever. And then he looks over at me, he goes, I want to do that. I was like, what do you mean what do you want to do? You're in great shape. What are you talking about? He's like, no. I want to put this on for our city. I was like, oh, okay. And then be careful when your spouse, whenever y'all get married, pay attention. I wasn't really paying attention. And I said, okay, just, all right, find a way. Lord. And so we were members of Spiece Fitness. And when Spiece was, really big, and when Tom Spiece was still part of that. So anyways, he presents it to Tom Spiece, Ann Davis, director of Spiece. And before we know it, we have this board, and we put this board together, and all of a sudden it's like, this is really happening. We are going to do this. And what we decided was we would put a team together, and when we first started the program, we had one dietitian. We had 2 trainers, and it was like, oh my gosh, what are we doing here? And we couldn't get sponsors. Because it's like basically showing up and going, hey, I'm really good at what I do. Hey, do you want to sponsor me? And they're like, are you nuts? Like, no, we don't want to sponsor you. We don't even know anything. Are you going to be successful? And we said, we're always going to make it free. We want to help those that don't have the money, the means to dietitians, trainers, a gym. We gave this 100% free. And we picked 25 people every year, and we had our board, and we would select, and people would apply. And we had this curriculum that they would have to adhere to, and you'd have to be at least 50 pounds overweight. Well, so the first couple of years, Rick and I funded it ourselves because we believed in it. My husband is so passionate, and I said, I know that we're going to be able to get sponsors. We just have to show that our results are really meaningful. And sure enough, we were seeing people lose in 15 weeks over 50 pounds. And so we're like, wow, we have something here. And so we decided we were going to go in and pitch Lutheran Hospital. And now, mind you, I'm old school, my husband's old school. We're like, okay, how do we exactly do this? I'm in the construction business. He's in construction. Do I have to do a PowerPoint? I really don't know how to use PowerPoint. Should I teach myself? I'm like, nope, I'm not doing it. I am going to go in with who I am. So I literally typed everything out, and I handed out pamphlets. And I'm sure they looked at us like, what, are these people crazy? And first of all, I can't believe I actually got a board there to meet with us. But we had some help. My husband had some friends at Lutheran, and they said, just give them a chance. So they did. And the first time we got the door shut, they came back and told us no. And we said, I'm not giving up. We're not giving up because we believe in this. And that would have been season 3. I'm sorry. Season 3, we went in and pitched, and they said no. And so I came in a little stronger on season 4. And Rick and I were better on our game. We had more statistics, and Lutheran said yes. And they gave us a team of dietitians, which were phenomenal, and they gave us 10. And we had 5 teams of 5. And so each team got 2 individual dietitians, which 90% of weight loss is your food. You can work out all day long.
That's right.
I mean, if you don't know what you're putting in your mouth and so on and so forth, and that's a whole nother topic, you're not going to be successful. And in addition to that, they said, we're going to also provide a behaviorist, which obviously if you don't have your mind right and there's things going on behind the scene, which we were seeing through our first 3 seasons of what people were sharing with us that were really personal, child abuse, all kinds of different things that happened to them as a child and why they resorted to food. We're like, whoa, this isn't our lane. My husband always talks about lanes. And if it's not your lane, don't get out of that lane. So we said, wow, we need this is great. And so we had this team from Lutheran, and it just skyrocketed. And before we knew it, we had so many different sponsors come on board. Wayne TV, we got it hooked up with Wayne TV, and then before we knew it, my husband was doing TV shows, which you can still Google if you want to get on YouTube. They're still on there. There's some really cool segments with really great leaders in our city, and it just continued.
Well, there's some stories in that story, and one is networking. We impress upon our students, it's very important. You share that Rick knew somebody. When we put ourselves out there to meet people, people then know who we are, and they'll give us a chance.
Yes.
So that is one story. Another story, Tina, you said, I went in prepared the way I knew, but I had to go back to the board and understand how they wanted me to be prepared. That's a story for our students.
Yeah.
Sometimes I need to go back, and the lesson is in going back.
Absolutely. Don't let the door close. Your fear of failure.
Yeah.
And I'll talk on. I have a failure quote at the end.
Yeah.
That if we were scared to go back, I said they're going to just shut the door again. And my husband said, no, we're going to come in prepared. We're going to come in, and we were way better prepared.
That's right.
And we did our homework, and
you didn't give up.
No, we didn't give up, and I'm so thankful.
Because you knew you had the skills. It needed to be packaged differently.
Yeah.
And that's what students, it's important that they hear this story, that sometimes when we first present, when we're getting wise counsel, the people say, look, I look at you, but you need to go back and come again. Don't give
100%.
up.
Yeah,
Don't be
give up.
scared. So you've been incredibly successful with a for-profit and a not-for-profit. And to mention, your husband also owned Wayne Asphalt with his brother, recently sold. But you guys are serial entrepreneurs in your house. And what skills did you use to build your businesses and sustain them? Just give me two. Like, what are you looking for, or what did you do to help secure your businesses?
Well, the key is having good employees.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to have good employees first. You have to have great communication skills, and good leadership.
Yep.
And you have to be willing to work as a team. And not micromanage. Is really important.
Oh, no, I don't have the time.
Right. I mean,
and if I did, I still wouldn't, because employers are looking to hire the right person, and technical skills are incredibly important for students to have. Human skills
100%.
are up there. Employers are looking for people to communicate effectively, to be honest, to have integrity, and to come to work and be prepared, to show up.
To show up and be honest, and really communication, we feel, is really key.
Yeah. And I share with students some will attest, I'll say, it's not what you do when someone's watching you, it's what we do when someone's not watching us, Tina.
100%.
So if you want to speak to that and share your, I don't know if the question was, why are setting goals and measuring those goals so critical to our success in achieving? And I don't know if that's leading you to the fear quote, but it's so important for students to understand, if we're just waking up, going through a day, someone else will set our life for us.
100%. I mean, you have to be willing to take a risk. Some of the scariest things that we do in our life bring the biggest rewards.
Yep.
You have to be willing to put yourself out there and be ready.
JT Trucking in Fort Wayne's smallest winner. Single mom. You have a lot of those, right?
Right, yes. I mean,
You were scared, right, girl?
I was very scared.
Yeah.
I mean, our first truck that we bought, And this, now mind you, go back to 1996, which I know y'all weren't born, some, but that was scary to say, I'm gonna get a truck and it's gonna cost me $96,000.
That was a lot of money back
So
then.
let me equate it to what it is now. For me to buy a dump truck is $200,000. So I didn't have that kind of money. We didn't have that kind of money. And to say, hey, what do you think, honey? Me and my partner we're gonna take out a loan, and what if it doesn't work? What if you plant these things in your brain, and we were scared, and we were newly married. I made more money than my husband at the time when he owned his gym. I was making more money at the job that I had that I walked out on, and we're both like, what are we gonna do? Like, is this gonna work? And then, oh, you wanna take a $96,000 loan out?
Yeah.
That was scary.
Of
Yeah.
course. And it's the burning building example. I'm on the top floor and the fire's downstairs. Create a plan,
Yeah,
get wise counsel,
sure.
and be scared, because otherwise life will make a plan for you, and it's just not
Well, I
not
think
what
you
most
have to
people
be
want.
scared. And so then my partner and I, we would research like the different certifications that we could get, which was WBE, Women Business Enterprise. So that helped with getting jobs. So again, networking.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have different certificates. And being a woman-owned company, there's also a DBE license, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. So that gives you preferential treatment, not treatment, but priority. Certain government jobs require that they have to have so many women on their job. But it took many years to get the DBE license. It's out of Indianapolis. They have an officer, it's a real officer that comes down, evaluates your entire company, goes over absolutely everything from, you know, what do tires cost you? What does gas cost? I mean, it was a 4-hour interview and very grueling, and you're like,
So how much does it cost to fuel your dump trucks a year?
well, I'm glad that you asked me that, because
Yeah.
I wanted to tell you. Tires, okay, let's go to, if you could imagine how much it costs if the dump truck needs tires. If anybody would guess.
Tires, let's say 10,000 apiece.
Oh, you're good. Between 7,000 to 12,000.
Yeah.
And so you got to work this all into what jobs you're running. Am I going to make money? That sort of thing. And to be honest,
That's why Accounting 106 and Accounting 110 and
Yeah.
spreadsheets are important.
very important. But you learn that early on. And here's another fun fact. How many miles per gallon do you think a truck gets? Now think of what you get in your car.
Is it diesel?
Yeah, oh yeah.
They're diesel.
Okay, I just want to
Somebody
ask.
shout out some numbers.
Shout out. 19. For a dump truck? Okay, and what do you get in your car? 28. Okay.
I'd say 4.
5.
Give it up for Professor Francher-Donald.
Yeah,
I'm doing
good
really
girl.
well up here.
Way to go. She should own a dump truck.
I'm just old, so the cost of living.
But I mean, you think about that.
Yeah.
You know, so obviously it's based on what that truck, where he hauls, so on and so forth. But you can kind of do the math on what it's
Yeah.
costing. So you think of these numbers, these are just baseline numbers of what you're doing. And just so you know, our truck drivers make between $25 and $30 an hour now today. Let's see. So it just kind of depends. And so when we first started the company in 1996, our jobs for us, it was $55 an hour to hire our company. Now it's $130.
Wow.
So you got to put all this together and say, are we going to make money?
Right.
And the other fun fact is when your truck goes down, it's
The
not making
maintenance.
me any money if it's in the shop, right?
Yep.
It's not making us money. So then at the end of the season, we would have to evaluate, is it beneficial to keep putting in these tickets to get it fixed, or do we buy another dump truck? And so every year we would have to assess that and run the numbers and decide. And as the years go by and the trucks are getting to $200,000 is what we pay now, should we do that?
That's good because our students have, even all students in the School of Business will have an internship and they will be in a business learning this. This is all possible. Tina came from, she came from a very difficult situation and she and her husband are incredibly successful. I might say Cassandra is really, really successful, she and her husband. Tina has some amazing grandkids, but it's all possible, but we need to put it together and we need to create a plan and walk alongside someone who's done this. So for the sake of time, I know we have just a few minutes left. If you want to give one nugget of advice to our students, and then we're going to have some students come to the mic and ask some questions. So if you want to read your...
Yes, I do.
Yep.
I have something. Has anybody heard of Tim Denning? He's on CNBC, Business Insider.
Okay.
If not, you need to look him up
Okay.
because I love what he has to say.
Yep.
And here's my tidbit of advice about fear. Fear exists, but it's not the reason to stop or give up. It's when you decide your big goals are more important than the fear you feel, because fear will always exist. In fact, I argue fear is a must. If you're not feeling fear every day, then you're not doing anything important. Fear is a precursor to growth. It's where all the mental muscle is built. Fear is a mind game. Like all games, the game can be won. Lean into the fear, seek it out, and get good at living with it.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I like that. Just before we have the students come to the microphone,
Sure.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yes.
You want to make sure that you're scanning the QR code. If you're here for a class, you want to scan the QR code so that your professor knows that you were in this class, okay? Evan, if you want to lift the lights, and we have some, I know students are starting to have to leave, but some students, if you want to come up and ask some questions. I know some people who said they had some questions. Who has a question? Up to the microphone. Trinity, where's Trinity? Get up. Come on, girl. Hostway? Question. Come on. Thank you. They're all...
What is your biggest advice for women in business?
For women in business, oh my goodness, I guess it would depend on what kind of business you want to go into, but to kind of like the fear that I just spoke about is to not give up, because you're not always going to walk in somewhere and it's all going to go right? I mean, you're going to have hills and valleys, and you're going to want to keep pushing forward and not just because a door closes, kind of like I said with Fort Wayne Smallest Winner, you could easily just say, I'm not going to do this. But I also would also say networking is key for a woman in business. You know, there are certain industries that, like trucking, that is more male dominated than women, right? Than the woman being in that industry. And so you would want to continue to know that you could do it and stand strong.
All right, who else has a question?
Yeah.
Come on. I know you're not scared. Bronson, get on up here. Let's go. Awesome.
This is like Bev's class when we talked to Bev's and nobody wanted to talk.
They talk all the time in class.
Yeah.
I guess. Well, I did the internships class. Shout out internships class. I work in a logistics firm. I'm just wondering if you do any like dry van, flatbed, or just dump trucks.
Dump trucks.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah.
I was interested in it.
Are
I haven't
you
worked
with Buchanan?
No, I'm with Circle Logistics.
Okay.
But Chad Buchanan, the CFO.
Yeah.
I forget who's the whatever. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, I was just interested.
Yeah, he was a member over at SPIE, so that's why I wondered if you were a part of that. Mm-hmm. No.
Thank you, Bronson.
Yeah, that was a good question.
Good question.
I have to move it because I'm short. I have a question for you in terms of your leadership style. one thing that you had mentioned earlier was that it takes good employees, but I also believe it takes a good, solid leader. What helped you develop your leadership style?
Well, that would be the jobs that I had, and probably the job that I had for 10 years, leading as the first woman in that company to have any males below me, and learning how to communicate. I wasn't communicated to. I mean, my boss really didn't have good communication skills, so I knew when I was going to have a business, whether it was J&T Trucking, whether it was Fort Wayne Smallest Winter, to have a great team behind us that wasn't micromanaged and would help lead versus me always leading, right? So I do agree with you that you have to have a good leader, but I also think you need your employees to be on their own and make good decisions, is really important to us in both Fort Wayne Smallest Winter and J&T Trucking.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the excellent question. Well, Tina, a lot of our students do have to go, as you
Yeah.
noticed, they exited.
Of course.
Thank you for your
Thanks for
patience
your
with that.
time.
Who else? Kyle, do you have a question? Who has a question? Come on up. Utilize her knowledge. This young man is an accounting major.
Oh, my
He's at-
goodness.
I know.
We have a good accountant in our
Yeah.
business, so accountants are key to a company.
That's right. The question I was going to ask is, if you had to pick between the two businesses you kind of run, which one is your favorite and why?
Oh, wow. It's hands down going to be Fort Wayne Smallest Winter. And I think because nobody on our team was paid, and we had such an incredible team that gave to our community 100% free. And the people we met that my paths would have never crossed. And I'm so thankful and grateful, and I know my husband would say the same. It's not always about money. And yes, I have to pay my bills like everybody else, and J&T helped us pay those bills. However, Fort Wayne Smallest Winter is what gave me life in my heart to serve our community and to give back. And Antoinette was one of our running coaches. I don't know that anybody knew that, but and Beverly sitting over here was one of our dietitians.
Yes.
So, and I have developed friendship. I would have never met these two incredible women had we not had Fort Wayne Smallest Winter. And I'm so thankful because these two women mean so much to me as friends, and they helped grow our Fort Wayne Smallest Winter. And without a good team, we would have never been so successful. And my husband and I are very strong about saying, if you don't have a good team, you don't have a good business. And without our team, Fort Wayne Smallest Winter wouldn't exist. It wasn't Rick and Tina, it was our team that put that together. So 100% Fort Wayne Smallest Winter.
Excellent question. And Kyle, you are
Yeah.
learning the difference between the different the tax returns for not-for-profit and for-profit now, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. I look at 990s a lot because I want to know how much the executive team is making
There you go.
because it's public knowledge.
It is.
People say, really? I'm like, yep. Go ahead and look so you know how much your boss is making.
I should have shared this with your USF here is because Bev provided us interns, and we had 2 interns from St. Francis, and one of the interns became a very dear friend. We consider her like a daughter, but I should have said this earlier so all the students could hear. She had to show up and do a certain number of hours for her internship. Well, this particular intern, her name was Caitlin, she would do her hours, and then she would come back for nutrition class and join our runs on Sunday at 7 a.m. Being a college student, I'm sure you know you don't really want to get up at 7 a.m. She didn't have to do it. She did it anyways. And I should have said that even when you have internships, go the extra mile because it's noticed. And we've wrote numerous letters for her. She now has her own business, which we're super proud of her.
Yes.
But I mean, she's doing very well. She works exclusively with women and hormones and so on and so forth. But she's an alumni from St. Francis. But it goes to show if you go the extra mile, people are going to support you. Rick and I would do anything for her. We wrote so many different letters for her, and she's now very successful.
Yeah.
So always give 100% at your internship. You don't know who you're going to meet. It doesn't necessarily have to be your boss. It could be a coworker. And they say, oh, well, I know such and such. You know, you're in the accounting business and you're doing a fantastic job. Maybe your boss doesn't recognize it, but your coworker does, and he knows a friend of a friend of a friend, and you land a job.
Excellent advice. And Kyle is going to land on his feet. He is definitely an amazing student. So, wonderful job.
We wish you the best of luck.
Yes.
Yeah.
One day you'll be running the business, Kyle. I have no doubt.
Absolutely.
Aren't you starting a business? Yes, he's going to start a business. He's a business owner right here. Awesome.
Keep the fear quote.
Josue, you have a question? Awesome.
So, you know how you mentioned like fear to not let it get to us and all that? What was the key point that you used for yourself to like battle that fear?
To not stop, to
not
not
stop.
ever give up,
Yeah.
you know, I had so many doors closed in my face, you know, and didn't want to talk to me. And I felt like I'm not going to give up. I mean, the fear and going into meetings where we weren't sure that we would get like the sponsorship. And I can take Fort Wayne Smallest Winter, we can go J&T Trucking, that would they want to hire women, you know, even when it wasn't a DBE or an EBE job. Keeping that networking going with other trucking companies and showing up every day and saying, okay, you may not want to use me, but I'm going to keep showing up. So I think you have to keep showing up for whatever it is you decide to do in your career and not let fear get the best of you and you just say, I'm not going to do it because it's probably not going to work out. Well, how do you know it won't work out? Unless you keep showing up, right? And so don't allow that fear to block a door that could really be a great door that could open for you.
Tina, thank you. That is amazing advice. And Josue works in our department. This is his first semester, freshman year.
Oh,
He's
welcome.
a military veteran. He's still an
thank you for your service.
He's still a weekend warrior, but I'm grateful to have him and appreciate the question because he's putting those pieces together.
That's
and he's
awesome.
going to be incredibly successful. And I'm happy to have him in our department
Absolutely.
as a student worker. So
That's
yeah.
wonderful.
Well, any other questions before we wrap up? I appreciate everything that Tina has shared with us.
That went fast.
I know.
I didn't think I could talk a half hour, and now I'm like talking an hour.
Hey, I wish we could do too. So, any other questions? Don't be scared to come to the mic. If you have a question, come to the mic, please. Please, we have just a few minutes left. Remember, don't be scared.
Thanks for being here.
Oh, I love your red hair.
Oh, thank you.
My
I appreciate
granddaughter has red hair.
It is. It's awesome.
Beautiful.
So as part of being, a successful business owner, you probably need like a team of advisors, and you kind of mentioned like accounting and things like that. How did you go about getting that advisory board, essentially, of both accounting and the liability protection?
Yes, that's a great question. As far as J&T Trucking, we have an accounting firm that is behind us. And actually, when we first started the business, my partner and I enlisted our accountant to teach us everything. We would go over to our accounting firm, and they would basically take us to school. And we went many times to learn how are we going to do the payroll, how are we going to do fuel taxes, all the stuff that comes along with having to report to the state. We didn't know how to do it. So you enlist people that, like, again, I love my husband saying, stay in my lane. That wasn't my lane. I'm not going to pretend that I know all that because I don't know it all. Yeah. And I don't think anytime you start a business, you're going to know it all. But I think when your company fails is when you're too proud to say, I don't know it all. Yeah. And that's what gets people in trouble is they want to say, oh, I know it all. Well, that's going to get you in trouble. You're not going to have a business. Yeah. So you do have to have the right people in place. And then for Fort Wayne Smallest Winter, Rick and I were smart enough to know we have to have a solid team if this program's going to fly. Mm-hmm. And enlisted the running coaches, the dietitians, the behaviorists, the trainers, the right sponsors behind us, setting up the right TV shows, the right things that we thought the public wanted to hear on health and wellness. So always having the right team behind you is going to make you successful in anything that you do. And accounting, you know, all those kind of people that make your business flow are key, or you're not going to have a business.
Did you already know some people, and so, but the
We did.
accounting- Okay.
We did. We knew people. We had a great accounting firm with my husband's, his company. So we just enlisted the same because we trusted them. And so Joyce, like I said, Joyce and I were taken to school. I mean, on a chalkboard, you know, is what he did it with. And it was really difficult at first to learn everything. But we didn't give up either. You know, we just kept showing up, and that's key, I think, is to keep showing up.
Yep.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you for your
Morgan,
question.
Thank you. Well, Tina, I just want to thank you so much. I'm sorry students had to move on to class, but
Of
thank you
course.
so much for your time.
Thank you all for
Tina
coming.
will be up here if you have questions. Her husband Rick is to the side of me. So if you have fitness, bodybuilding questions, Rick can help you. So that's his love, his lane, his passion, and he knows a lot about it. He
He
spent a lot of
does.
years. So thank you, Tina, for coming today.
Thank you, Antoinette, for having me. I really enjoyed myself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It wasn't that bad, was it? No. See, I told you it's like a conversation.